Gail King from Looking to Make a Difference with Gail, and I'm here at the beautiful Algonquin Hotel, and I'm very excited because I have a very special guest today. Many of you know Mickey Burns from his TV show Profiles, and of course from his new book. It's actually the memoir, and it's called From the Projects to Profiles, an account of how he ended up making it in New York City. However, I always start off with a quote, and I found a really interesting quote that I think sums up this very kind humanitarian man. Chris Jamie said, "Find a purpose to serve, not a lifestyle to live." Welcome, Mickey.
Gail, it's an honor to be on your show. I know you've been doing this for quite some time, and I'm thrilled that you included me in your itinerary.
Thank you so much.
It's really a pleasure.
You're one of my idols because of your interviewing techniques.
Well, thank you.
The fact that you are professional, you are always prepared.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to be able to speak with you and hear so much about you.
Right.
I want to just talk a little bit about the book, and then we're going to get into your life, the book, etc.
That would be wonderful. I will say, though, I can see you read the book. It looks like it went through the mill. So if somebody buys this book, it'll look new.
At Barnes & Noble and where else?
And Amazon, Walmart, it's everywhere.
But you know what, Mickey, you and I have both been teachers.
Yes.
And I think there's so much to be said about taking a book and literally taking it with you, marking it up, studying it, and going over it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm honored that it looks that way.
Thank you.
Because I know you read every page.
I did. And Mickey,
yes,
it was Chuck Barris.
Yeah,
and many people know him from The Gong Show, The Newlywed Show.
Love Chuck.
Great guy. But he's the one who inspired you to write your memoir in 2009.
You know, that's a good, I'm so glad you asked that question, because during the Chuck Barris interview, we were talking about the fact that he wrote Palisades Park for Freddie Ken.
Right.
Said it was the biggest thrill of his life. And then after he told me about that, he stopped the interview. He said, "Mickey, it just dawned on me, you have a book in you." And I said to him, "Chuck, I don't have the time to write a book. You know, I'm too busy." He says, "Nah, you have the time. Write 1 page a day. At the end of the year, you have your book." So I said, "Man," he inspired me to get to it. But I didn't take his advice, because once I started to write 1 page, I wasn't able to do it. I had to write 6 pages, 10 pages.
Right?
I could not write 1 page. You know, because once you have an idea,
you have to keep going.
You have to keep going.
So were you up all night?
Stop. Well, no, but I would cluster a couple hours here. I mean, I was, I don't know how other people write, but I'd be on the subway, on the ferry boat, Staten Island ferry, and I would get an idea, and I'd be scurrying around the ferry or asking people for a piece of paper so I wouldn't forget the idea for the book. And I did that for almost 14 months.
Was it difficult for you to write, or was it easier than you expected?
I think it was easier than I expected.
Is that right?
Because once I started to write, I wrote in clusters, and I would get ideas for the book in the morning, in bed at night, on the ferry boat. They would just come, these new ideas. I would have these flashbacks of things that I felt would enhance the book, and I never ran out of those, other than to say, "I think you got a book, it's time to stop."
I want to ask you, not from all the interviews, but from the book writing process itself, what did you learn about yourself?
That's a good question. I think the biggest thing I learned is that I could accomplish this task, which I thought was unattainable before I started writing. I said I could never write a book, and the satisfaction I garnered from completing this book was overwhelming. Really, I said, "Man, I think this is like my biggest accomplishment."
I love the way you organized it. We're going to go through it. We're going to go back to the beginning. And I just thought it was just great. I mean, Staten Island, age 11, you look out from where you are, and you're in the projects.
Changed my life.
And they're called, South Beach Projects, and you see fields.
I saw my future.
You saw your future. Explain
First day, I looked out the window and I saw the school that I'd be attending. It looked massive to me at that time, but I was an athlete. I mean, I love sports, and they had concrete playgrounds, basketball courts, dirt football fields, and I said, it's like a fish to water. But best thing about it was, you'd step out of your house and there was 40 kids to play with each and every day. You know, you didn't have to go looking for people to play with. There was, you know, you had to get out there quick or you wouldn't get a spot on one of the teams.
Well, let's take a look at this now, and let's try to get a picture for our viewers. I know that your dad was an excellent athlete. You probably inherited that.
He was a baseball player.
Right, and your mom, you said, love,
yeah,
kind,
she's the best.
Brought everybody together.
She did.
All right, we're talking about late 50s. We're talking about the 60s.
Yes.
So what was time like in this particular area? And wasn't a lot of money.
Well, we all struggled. I mean, you know, think World War II ended in the late 40s.
Right.
All these soldiers came back from World War II, tried to make their go of it. But now they're 30, 31, 32 years old after spending 5, 6 years, you know, going in their 20s, now in their 30s. Come back with no job, no education, because instead of going to college, they were in the Philippines, you know, fighting.
Worst war, right?
Yeah. So my father was in the Philippines for 6 years, fighting the Japanese in the Philippines. So when he finally came home, he was like 31 years old. And baby boomers, of course, were married, were born, because when people come back, they wanted to get married fast.
And they wanted family,
they were late.
families.
They were late,
right,
you know.
Right.
And housing was minimal, jobs were minimal, so we moved into the projects along with a lot of other families in the same boat.
Right.
And nobody had any money, but it was a great place to grow up because most everyone was happy.
You said you gained confidence from that area, and how so?
Well, I think, you know, it was the projects weren't an easy place to grow up. I mean, you know, if you had to be tough, and if you weren't, you know, you would take your bruises, you know, because there were a lot of bullies walking around. I survived a lot of that because of my athletic prowess. Because I was good athletically, that kind of left me alone somewhat. So you had no reason to be confident, so you had to give the impression that you were. And I always say, so I write in the book that remember the opening scene in Saturday Night Fever. Is it Fever?
Yes.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yes.
With John Travolta walking down the street with the paint can. He had that strut. And I said in the book, where I came from, we all walked that way because you needed to create the image of confidence. You may not have had it, but if you didn't show that, then you were susceptible maybe for the bullies to work you over.
You know what surprised me? At that time period, most women stayed at home. And Mom Dorothy, she was amazing. She ended up EKGs.
Well, what she did was my father was a drinker, a smoker, and a gambler. And unfortunately, I saw what those vices did to our family. You know, was the rent, I mean, we were paying a meager rent, but would the rent be paid or would he gamble it all away?
Right.
So I saw the damage that those vices created within our family. My mother, on the other hand, she did the best she could in spite of his vices, and at one point got tired of
worrying about,
wondering, are we going to pay the rent?
Right.
And she went back to school and became an EKG technician, and she was an assistant to a heart doctor. And this way she was able to support the family if he didn't.
But she was after you. You have to get to school, education.
I would fight with her all the time.
And you said Mom was right.
She's right.
Mom was right.
What I wanted to do was they had an after school. After school I went out and participated in sports with the other kids.
Right, of course.
At nighttime the school had a center where you could go and play basketball and things like that. So I wanted to participate in that instead of staying home and studying like I should have. So she was right, and it really set me back academically, and I had to straighten myself out the hard way.
She raised you to be a gentleman, though.
Oh, she did.
And do you ever hear of the Irish novelist George Moore?
No.
I'm going to read you a quote, and I'm going to ask you to please apply that to yourself. A man travels in search of what he needs, only to go home and find it.
Ah,
Love that?
that's a good
Do you
quote.
love that?
I love that.
I love it.
And I found everything in South Beach because that was my ticket out and my ticket to a positive future.
Sports was your ticket
Sports
out. You
was my
knew that at
ticket
age
out.
13
I
when you were
did.
winning those awards.
I did.
Tell about that award. That's incredible.
Well, you know, in my elementary school, they used to give, but again, everything is magnified. When I was in the 8th grade, I mean, that was like going to NYU. I mean, that was my world. I was in a bubble. And every year at graduation, they used to give a trophy to the school's best athlete. And when I was in the 8th grade, I got that trophy, and it was like I won the Heisman Award, you know?
But later on, Vince Lombardi wrote to you
Right, well, that,
for
then
the
right.
Redskins.
Well,
Come on, Mickey, that's fabulous.
Then I went to a high school that was a perennial football powerhouse.
Newdorf.
And I made the team, had a nice career there, got a football scholarship to Missouri Valley out in the Midwest. And upon graduating, you're referring to, after what I thought was done with football, Vince Lombardi, I got a letter from him after my senior year. It was saying, you know, we saw, you know, our scouts saw you play. We'd like you to come to our summer camp, tryout camp, you know. And I said, you know, I had finished 4 years of high school, 4 years of college without a serious injury. And I was enrolled. Education was kind of important because I knew the opportunity to go to graduate school was tremendous.
And you're the first one in your family to go to school.
College. So I had put more emphasis on, at that point, education than continuing playing football. So I wrote him a nice letter and said, Mr. Lombardi, I'm honored and thrilled that you invited me to camp, but I'm already enrolled in graduate school, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to pass, but thank you.
Let's show the ring. Perhaps if we can hold this up.
I don't think you could get this.
I'm not sure if you can, but it's very significant. This ring is symbolic to you because?
Well, it's symbolic because, and it's interesting because I have lunch or dinner with the president,
Bonnie
Humphreys, who's in the book. And when I first met her, we had lunch in New York City, and she said, "Oh, you're wearing your college ring just for me today, aren't you?" And I said to her, I've wore this ring every day since 1969 I graduated because that's how much a college education meant to me in my life. And this ring represents that. And she was stunned. You know, you're still with her from all these years. I said, yeah, that means a lot to me.
You know what, I was so impressed that you gave the speech 2012 at this school because you were frightened about public speaking.
When I was young.
Right, when you were young, and that's number one fear
Yes.
that most kids...
That's a good question, Gail. When I was in high school, and they would ask me to get up and read, I would always make an excuse. Oh, I forgot my glasses, I don't feel well today. I was frightened to death, right? So I knew I had to overcome it. So when I got to Missouri Valley, the first thing I did was sign up for every speech and drama course that they had, acting, anything where I had to speak in front of people so I could overcome this fear.
So was this always your dream then, to end up where you are at Profiles?
Well, it was. In a way it was. But I always say this, when I was going to college, it was BC, which is before cable.
Right.
So the opportunities were limited.
Right.
So when I graduated, I knew if I wanted to get into the television industry and doing what I'm doing now, it would have been in Boise, Idaho.
Right.
It would not have been in New York City. You know, maybe from there, Biloxi, Mississippi. And then several years later, if you're really good, I might have made it to Philadelphia. But it might have been a 10-year,
See, people don't realize that's the route that's usually taken.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
you know,
people don't realize
and
that.
it could be a 10 or 12-year journey. So I decided to come back instead and start teaching and coaching, which I did, and I loved it, you know, for many years. But my heart was still wanting to get into the broadcasting
You know how I
industry.
knew that? Because in your speech that you gave, you shared that you can get many no's, but all it takes is
one yes.
And I love that. That's such great advice for people
well,
out there
you
who
would be
want to get there.
surprised how many guests of the 500 that I've had on Profiles say the same thing.
Yes.
You know, no. I can think of one, Air Supply of the group.
Yeah.
And they were turned down by every record label for years and years and years. But they stuck with it and eventually got a yes.
American Idol.
Same thing. Well, American Idol
Right.
was passed up by every network. And the reason that it finally got its opportunity was Rupert Murdoch's daughter was in England.
I didn't know
And
that.
they have American Idol there, but it's called the X Factor.
Right.
And she saw the show and she came back to the States and told her dad, you know, this show is really big over there. You know, you should give it a shot.
Wow.
So with her insistence, they put it on Fox as a summer replacement. Nobody got paid.
Wow.
But they said, well, you know, we'll do the production for you and everything else. Put it on, we'll see how it goes. American Idol is the most successful show in the history of television.
Right.
But before Murdoch put it on as a summer replacement, every other cable station passed.
7 tellies you were sharing with me that you received. And I know you're very modest about
Right.
that.
Yes.
But there were also, you worked with somebody, domestic violence, when you were first starting.
At
And
Fox.
that won the award, Emmy
Yeah.
Award.
Yeah.
And it became the precursor to what show? The Cops?
Cops. Well, when I was at Fox, I got a call from Richie Murphy, who was cameraman on this special. So I got you on a special.
And you were sound man.
I'm going to be the sound man.
Okay.
And we're going to do on this domestic violence special. And we're going to meet at the station, and we have to be in Paterson, New Jersey at 7 o'clock to the police station. And then we're going to wait there for a domestic violence call. And I said,
Scary.
well, you know, we'll be there all night. We're
Right.
not going to get any calls. We were there 3 minutes, phone rang, boom. It's a domestic violence call. The cop said, come on, let's go. We have to go. We get in the back of the cop car. We got our cameras, boom, boom, boom. And the cop turns around to me and says, by the way, be on your toes. He has a knife.
Oh, great.
And he's violent.
Oh, my gosh.
And he wanted to kill his wife or something like that. So we rushed to this building. It looked like the Munsters house, an old house, you know, that need a lot of repair. No lights on in the house. Cops come running out. We run in the house. We had the cameras behind the cops. And we were walking up dark staircases, you know. And one of the cops noticed a window on the second floor opened. It was February. And he said, I think he jumped out. So he said, let's go down and go around the back. Maybe he's in the backyard. And we went out to the backyard, and it was like junkyard, stuff all over the tires, a lot of leaves, and a lot of bushes. And they were with the flashlights in the bushes. And I'm standing right in the middle of all this with I had the sound booms mic, and Richie's got the camera.
Nervous.
And I look up, and then there was a second floor ledge, and I thought I saw a tip of a sneaker. You know, so I said to Richie with the camera, I said, turn your camera light on and point it towards, I think that's a sneaker up there. So he points it up, and it was a sneaker, and it was him on the
And that
ledge
was
like
the guy.
this.
Oh,
it was
my
pitch
goodness.
black, you know. And he pans it, he gets to his face, and you see the guy's eyes. I said, oh my God, that's him. Meanwhile, the cops are turned the other way, right? And I said to Richie, I think that's him. And the cop heard me.
And
So
that's
the
how
cop turns, and they come towards the camera, and the guy in the ledge stands up and does his best Spider-Man, leaps off the second floor,
Oh, no.
landing onto the two cops. And I'm standing like right in the middle of all this with the boom mic, he's got the camera. And they start rolling on in the leaves with this guy until they can handcuff him. I said to Richie, can you believe we got this? And we never moved. I was standing in one spot the whole time. It all happened around us, you know? And then we watched him get put in a police squad car after they handcuffed him, right into jail, into the cell. Once the domestic violence special was completed, somebody on the West Coast saw that.
And they liked the action.
The
they
action.
liked
It said,
it. They
you know, we
liked
should make a
it.
show out of this.
Wow.
And that's how that was the seedling for Cops, which I think is still on the end.
Yes, and that's only one of many stories that's in here. You know,
But we got no credit for it, really, other than
Yeah.
that was a good shot.
yeah.
You know, that was
Is
it.
it Eileen Shapiro had asked you what your legacy was, and I
Right.
loved it that you had talked about being educational inspirational,
Yeah, we try,
entertaining,
and entertaining.
and you are in this book. I'm going to
Thank
give
you.
you have so many. You're welcome. You have so many different celebrities in here. I tried to actually count it, and I couldn't because you could juxtapose one with another.
Yep.
You had legacy questions,
Right.
but I am going to throw out a few names, and if you could
Yes.
just give me quick
Oh, sure,
responses to
sure.
it. I love doing this. It's fun. George Foreman.
Gentleman, intelligent, giving.
Okay. Smokey Robinson.
The best. The best. Talented, creative. You know, when we were doing him, the assistant said, Mickey, you got 24 minutes, not a second more. So I bought him a golf, we gave him a golf club because I heard he was struggling with his putter. And at the 24-minute mark, I know you want short answers, but his assistant was like this,
Do whatever
Mickey,
you want.
your 24 minutes is up. And Smokey stopped the interview and said, Tony, sit down.
Oh.
I'll tell you when we're done. And he gave us a wonderful interview.
Joan Rivers.
Well, a lot of people don't realize how smart she was, super intelligent, super witty, tremendous author.
And I loved her
I loved her
book.
books too. You asked me
How
about author. I mean,
right,
I
right.
loved her stuff,
Yeah.
but very good to us.
She said she'd rather see a woman with surgery, pretty woman coming out of an old
I
car,
saw-
than an
right.
old woman coming out of a new car. Okay.
Yes, she was not opposed to being artificially enhanced.
No. How about Dion? Dion, remember Dion?
Dion was amazing because we did him on his 60th birthday, and when he sat down, he had his guitar, and I said, "Man, this would be great. Maybe he'll play some stuff for us, you know." And he did. He said, "Mickey, let me play all these new tunes for you."
How exciting!
But then I had to ask him the question about the day the music died because he was on the tour with Richie Valens, the Big Bopper, and Buddy Holly. And I'll share the short story with you because he became very pensive in the interview. And he said, we were on this winter high school bus tour in the Midwest, freezing cold, and the heater in the bus broke down. So Richie Valens ended up getting sick, and they decided to charter a plane to the next venue. And they had one seat left, so they came to Dion and said, Dion, would you like to join us on the plane? We'll get to the next stop and we'll get a good night's sleep instead of freezing on the bus.
Right.
So Dion said, how much? And Richie Valens said, $36 each. And he thought about it and he says, I pass. And Richie Valens said, why would you pass? He said, well, $36 is the exact amount my mother is paying for rent in the Bronx. And if she knew that I did this, she would never forgive me for the indulgence.
Oh, isn't that something?
And then he said, you know, if it had been 34 or even 42, I would have taken the flight.
I just got the chills from
And
that.
he's still performing. He's almost 70 years old today, still performing.
Mickey, you have stated in your memoir, executive producers always are looking for shows that attract the 18 to 30-year-olds.
That is true.
And you don't agree with that. You
No, I
think-
don't.
And why not?
Well, because I don't think the 18 to 30-year-olds are watching television anymore. So it's
They're
like
on the what, their
it's
iPads
like a
and-
no-brainer. I mean, look at the commercials. You used to see Old Navy commercials on television. You don't see them anymore because they finally got it.
Right.
And that's that, you know, they're on iPads and this pad and that phone, but they're not watching traditional television. So what are you seeing? The key is who's advertising on television today? I would say 50% of your ads are pharmaceuticals.
Right.
For
so you're
people who
going
are
to hit
getting
the
older.
55 to 60, probably that's the age,
Who have this
right?
ailment, that ailment,
That's true.
erectile dysfunction ailment, whatever it is. Or luxury cars.
And who could afford that?
People, baby boomers
You're
with all the
right,
money.
you're right.
So who's watching television?
You're right.
And we gear our show to those people that are watching.
You said that it was very impressive to meet Dr. Maya Angelou. And you were a little bit intimidated
little
with her
bit.
7 autobiographical books, etc. What did you learn from her that you could take away and say, that was inspirational?
Yeah. Well, you know, that she didn't know everything, you know, and I thought that was pretty good.
No.
Like she said, you know, we don't know what talent is. We don't really know what electricity is.
Right.
You know, but we need to always keep an open mind to try to keep learning about these things. But the first, I mean, when she sat down across from me, I was almost at a Wayne's World. I was going to get on my hands and knees and say, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I really wanted to do that because I knew I was so far over my head.
She's so humble.
But I did so much research
Okay.
that she forgave me for my intellect. And we survived it and got through it, and it ended up being a good interview. But that's the way I felt.
This lends itself toward that because you said nothing we create is perfect.
That's right.
We're all flawed in some way.
Absolutely.
And isn't that what makes us interesting?
Absolutely. Yes. And she that's what she was trying to say.
Oh.
Intellectually.
Okay.
You know, because what is talent? You know, one person might think that's a great singer. Another person says, I don't think it is. So what is talent?
On
What
your
is
list
talent?
of people you still wanted to interview, and I'm just curious, she's stunning.
Yes.
Raquel Welch.
I do.
Why?
Well, because I think she's a perfect example of never growing old. You know, she's got the fountain of youth going. She's done everything she can to remain young and vital. And I think she kind of stayed out of the tabloids.
Okay, that's
You know,
interesting.
I mean, she was the most desirable woman on earth for a period of time.
Right.
But I can't remember one situation where she got involved into some kind of
Scandal. There was
no scandal,
no
no drugs,
scandals.
no multiple men. She married one guy, stayed with him. I think she's a role model for women.
Okay, I was just curious.
And she's a lot. People don't know that she's as intelligent as she is.
Well, she has a business. She
She's
makes
really
money.
smart.
She's doing very well
Really
with
smart.
it. All right, what's on your bucket list?
Well, I would. You mean as a guest?
I mean, as a person.
Well, you know.
What do you want to do?
That's a tough question for me because I don't think a bucket list.
Okay,
Because
why not?
I think I'm achieving everything that I would want in that bucket list on a daily basis.
All right.
So I don't have anything like I want to jump
Okay.
out of a plane. You know, I just feel when I reflect on my life that I'm blessed right now, and I've lived my bucket list.
Okay, tough question, and I want to see how you deal with this one.
Go ahead.
Shakespeare said, it's in adversity we find out who we are. Mickey, who are you?
Well, I'm the guy that has been trying to overcome that adversity since he's 11 years old. And I think he's a person now who's comfortable in his own shoes, and I'm happy with the way I live my life.
So the past?
It means everything.
Okay.
You know, the progression has been constant. I've gone from one goal to the next goal to the next goal, and feel that I've come a long way from the projects.
Okay. You are so thankful for so much.
Yep.
But other than your family, what are you also grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful that I was able to pursue a passion for so long. You know, you have your show, and when I started mine, I never visualized being able to do 500 episodes. Yeah, I would have been happy if we did 50, you know, and we kept trying to do it, improve it, try to make it better, and I'm still doing it. I mean, how lucky am I at this stage of my life?
Not only lucky, but
That's
you're
my
also
passion.
very talented. That is your passion, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm living it.
I love the fact that you gave advice in your book about giving interviews.
Right.
I thought that was so
I tried
special.
to share what I know. You know, so like you did with me today. I think a pre-interview is very important. But a lot of people do pre-interviews, ask questions that are going to be asked during the interview, which then makes it affected. I try to find out,
Right.
well, what is the person I'm interviewing? What is their hobby? What is their interest outside of what we're going to talk about?
Right.
And I try to bond with that person as best I can with the 10 minutes you might have prior to the interview.
Want to be
Like with
comfortable.
Smokey Robinson, we talked about golf.
Right.
We didn't talk about songwriting or
Right.
Motown.
Very good.
And, you know, by the time the interview starts, you feel like you're friends.
You have to read this book. It really is a fast read, and then you go back and you say, wait, there's a lot more to it. And you'll recognize so many people, so much talent. And I know I'm grateful for the interview I had today,
Yes.
but also how kind this man is. He interviewed Judge Dominga today, and how kind was he to allow me to sit in on the interview, watch and take pictures. Mickey Burns, it's a pleasure, and I want to thank you.
Gail, that time flew. We're going to have to do this again sometime.
I'd love to.
And you're a wonderful interviewer, and it's been an honor to be on your show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.